Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida, where they are getting prepared for an ass kicking up in Buffalo this weekend, which they deserve since they did not beat the New York Football Jets and get us into the playoffs, so screw them, Dolphins. In any case, it's our season wrap-up show, guys. The Steelers finished 9-8. Nice win, 28-14 over the Browns. And, we got that. We got the Bills win over the Patriots, and then the Jets just couldn't put it in the end zone. And Dolphins win 11-6, I believe that game was. Here we are. It's time to look back and then start looking forward. And Ben is he's on
being a little bitch.
Being a little bitch, as he would say if we were gone. He is on a work conference or something like that, and I'm just going to go with code for he's probably drunk. In any case, we'll carry on as best we can. Welcome in to everybody. Freak Joe, George, Burners in. Shout out to DJ for his setting an NFL record. Ian, if you had
Right
that record, 86 receptions, no touchdowns, would you just laugh? Would you cry? What would you do?
And it wasn't like they didn't try.
Oh
right?
My God! Right?
They tried to force him over the second half of the season.
Yeah.
There were pass plays against, I think, Indy and Atlanta that he had balls in his hands in the end zone. And yes, a defensive back got his hands in and broke it up. But when you're making $18 million a year, you should probably, hang on to those balls once or twice. And thinking back, let's not forget the whole shit show of the season started against the Jets because Deontay couldn't get his second foot down in the back of the end zone, and then supposedly argued with Mitch about it at halftime, and Kenny Pickett came in. So, let's if DJ gets his second foot down in the back of the end zone against the Jets, this is a completely different season. Who knows what happens?
It really is something and obviously it's one of those you'll never know, but I remember being at that game, and it was so close. Thought he had it, and then they put it up on the big board, and it's like, oh, no, he didn't get it in. And who knows, man? What if he does get it in? Now it's a different game, and Tomlin might not be as quick to get the hook out. I don't know.
And maybe, maybe Kenny actually starts against New Orleans like I said he would at the beginning of the year instead of having to come in against the Jets. And like Scarp said, the toothpaste is out of the tube at that point in time.
Yeah.
You can't take him back. So, it's weird to kind of think about how one play here or there potentially changes the season, but you could point to that one. And let's just say, not only did Deontay have 86 receptions without a touchdown, they targeted him 147 times. He was the 7th most targeted receiver in the league.
Crazy.
So, you can't say they didn't throw him the ball enough. He had, I just tweeted this actually, he had 16 red zone targets this year and only caught 6 of them. So, it wasn't like they didn't try to get him the ball, especially in key situations. So, he just, it is what it is,
Yeah, I just want to interrupt the show because Ben has jumped in the comments section. I'm busy doing business over alcohol tonight. I just want to point out that anything these jackwagons say is wrong. I'm sorry, I'm not here to confront them in person. Well, you're not here to confront them in person, Ben, so piss off. But then he gets real. Oh, look, now see the alcohol's messing with his emotions. Seriously, appreciate the hell out of all of you for tuning in and interacting. Go back to your Shirley Temple, man. Look, Scarps, you've had to be in some situations where guys have had to stand at their locker and answer some tough questions, deal with some tough things, and I'm not suggesting that by any stretch what Deontay Johnson had to deal with was anywhere near the toughest, but you could kind of tell he felt weird about it. I thought, well, how do you think he should have played? Did he play it off well from what you could pick up on?
Yeah, I mean, I also want to point out that just because you tell somebody to say something in the interview doesn't mean they're always going to do it.
Right.
Um, I was fortunate to work there when there were a lot of veterans, and they knew how to play that. They knew there'd be times where I go up to them and be like, "Hey, you should say this." They're like, "Come on, Scarpino, like I know what to say. Like everything's good." I mean, it has to be weird, right? Like
Yeah.
about the ball 86 times, you never made it into the end zone, and I tweeted this the other day, and the dude is an elite route runner. Okay.
Yeah.
He is an elite route
Yep.
runner. He's almost always open. And every time like they showed those charts this year, there's always like he was always open. And that's huge. Getting separation and being always open is huge.
Absolutely.
But in my opinion, his impact has been lessened, especially this year, because of drops, playing in Matt Canada's offense, where they do target him, but they target him on those like speed outs, and it's just like so awkward because it's like he doesn't break tackles like he used to. And then getting back to it, and that's why I didn't want to sign him to that money, because Ben isn't here and he's not playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback. And him and I don't want to say he had that 7 to 84 type of synergy or connection, but Ben and him were on the same page. He had 107 receptions last year, and all his yards per catch last year weren't that great. He had 107 grabs and 8 touchdowns. And this year he had 86 for like 800 and something. I mean, and 0. I mean, that's just so it had to be awkward for him. I mean, what do you say in that situation? Yeah, I got paid like a number 1 wide receiver this year, and I caught 86 balls and no pay dirt. Like,
paid and targeted like a number 1 receiver.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's got to hurt your pride, because you're making money, but you also want to put up the stats to back it up, and it probably is a bit of a hit in that regard. But like you guys both said, they gave him some chances. I mean, he got tackled at the 1 the other day. He did get the 2-point conversion, but not quite the same.
That was a really nice ball by Kenny, too.
That may have been one of his best throws. And I think people often overlook sometimes. They make it look easy in the NFL on those corner fades. Those are not always easy balls to throw.
No.
Because you got to get it over the corner and in front of the pylon, and you're asking your wide receiver to fight off a DB in most cases.
Yeah. And the timing has to be like perfect.
It's got to all be there. Yeah. Speaking of Kenny Pickett, everyone when the Steelers season ends, doesn't matter when it ends, everybody kind of rushes to social media to get their big point across. This is why we didn't do this. This is why we did do this. They want to get that hot topic out there.
If they want to get hot topic, they should go to the mall in 1995.
Oh, it's still there, buddy. Let me tell you. I still see the kids pouring out of that place. Well, they want that soundbite or that piece that just gets everybody talking. And I've seen this, and I'm going to get your reaction. Ian, is Kenny Pickett a franchise quarterback?
I knew you were going to ask me this question.
Well, I'm asking both of you.
So I actually thought about my response to this afternoon, which is rare that I did any prep for the show at all. But no, so here's what I'll say. Franchise quarterback is a term that gets thrown around a lot. And it's one of those things, that like, it when you see it, but it's kind of hard to define, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, it's a guy who could, start for your team for 10 plus years and have you be, in playoff and Super Bowl contention more often than not, I'll say. Sometimes weird things happen, right? Other than Ben Roethlisberger, pretty much every franchise quarterback, has had some down years, right?
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers had some down years. Drew Brees had some down years. Phillip Rivers never made it to a Super Bowl, all that stuff. Ben, Peyton, Tom Brady were the exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, like, no one is going to say that Drew Brees wasn't a franchise quarterback. No one is going to say that Aaron Rodgers wasn't a franchise quarterback, right? But they did have some down years. Nevertheless, broader point. Is Kenny Pickett a franchise quarterback? I don't know yet. Am I comfortable with him starting next year? Yes, absolutely. I've seen enough out of him. There's been enough upward progression that I'm very comfortable with him, being the anointed starter going into the offseason, being the starter next year. Is he going to be a 10-year starter who can keep us in playoff contention more or less every year? Is he going to be, good enough to contend for a Super Bowl? I don't know yet. I haven't seen enough out of him yet to say, yes, he's going to develop into, Justin Herbert or Josh Allen or whatever that's going to put a team in play. He's never going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
He's probably never going to be Justin Herbert or Josh Allen either. But let's think about Herbert, right? Herbert was not great his rookie year. He made some wow throws, but they didn't win a lot of games.
No.
And this is Herbert's third year, and this is the first time they've made the playoffs. So, he makes a lot of wow throws, but there's also been a lot of question marks around him. So, I don't.
So
know.
You're basically saying, I can't call him a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
I need some more.
I can't call him a franchise quarterback yet, but I'm ready to call him our QB1 for next year. I'm comfortable with him being our QB1 next year, and probably the year after too, because he'll be on a rookie contract, and give him a couple years to develop. But I'm not sure if he's a 10-year starter yet, but he's at least a 3-year starter in my eyes.
Scarpino.
Ian, you made some good points. One thing I do want to say though is that you said about Justin Herbert, his rookie year. Justin Herbert actually has the most touchdown passes by a rookie quarterback ever.
Yep, 31.
31. Baker Mayfield, I think, had 28 or 26. And then later in the long distance dedication, we're going to find out which rookie quarterback had the fewest touchdown passes in their debut season. And I'm sure you could guess who that is. Ian, I hate that we agree. Not that I hate. Ian, you brought up good points, and I do agree. I do agree that it's too early to tell. Okay. And the people on Twitter that say, "Oh, we got our guy. We got our franchise quarterback." Listen, I understand he was clutch against the Raiders and he was clutch against the Ravens. Yep. Can't take that away from him. He has stones. He has balls. Literally, you're going to have to take him. The only way he's leaving the field is in a body bag, which reminds you of Ben, right? Okay. But all those intangibles we already knew about. Yes, he's made some nice throws. But you know who else has made nice throws in this league? Taylor Heineke, fucking Mike White, Nick Mullins, okay? His numbers, and I know numbers aren't everything, but his numbers are not that great, okay? And you're right, Ian. I don't think he's ever going to be throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's not going to be that. Does he have to be?
Yeah.
No. So you say, I'm asking you this question out.
Yeah.
Do you, based on what you've seen from Kenny Pickett, do you think next year he throws for 400 yards in a game, or does he even have his first multi-touchdown passing game next year?
Absolutely on the multi-touchdowns.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Yeah.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
But
that one I would agree with. Yeah.
So yes, I'm perfectly okay that he's going to be the starter next year. But I don't necessarily know how long you can sustain what we saw this year, because here's the bottom line. You got to score points to win in this league. You have to score points to win in this league. And if Matt Canada stays, I don't know how much more Pickett can do to put points on the board. Because when they get in the red zone, they suck. And I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit about, but again, I don't know if Kenny Pickett was even supposed to play this year, and he definitely did improve. And by improving, I think he did a much better job of protecting the football. But by no means am I sold on him based on this based on things that I didn't already know about him, as I talked about earlier.
Look.
So here's an interesting thing to bring up too. Kenny Pickett was a lot better after the bye than before the bye, but taking everything into account, his total season quarterback rating was 76.7. Okay, as a rookie. Guess what other rookie had almost the identical quarterback rating?
Passer rating?
Passer rating as a rookie.
Dan Marino.
No, it was the guy we compared him to all along. Derek Carr was 76.6.
Wow.
Right? Pickett was 76.7 and Carr was 76.6. And that said, if Pickett's career can grow into Derek Carr, there are worse things that he could turn out to be, right? He could turn out to be Sam Bradford or Jason Campbell. But
No, that's very true.
Yeah. There are worse things.
I think the fact that anyone right now would call him a franchise quarterback, it's hyperbole. I want to try to put my statement out there, so if it happens, I can go back and say I was right. I think that's what this is. Can he be? Sure. It's possible. Very possible. Keep the running game the way it is. Keep the defense, respectable. I mean, it's possible, but there was no way in hell I am calling Kenny Pickett after this year a franchise quarterback. I'm very happy with where he's headed, but I'm not going there.
And if he didn't play at Pitt, what do you think the overall? If he played at Utah, I know I see that a lot. If he played at Utah, or if he played at TCU, he would not be as popular. The fact that he went to Pitt is carrying him right now because they think he's going to be Marino.
I think it has a lot to do with it. Just even if you set Dan Marino aside, I think it's just the fact that he's right. He's a local kid. He was there, same facility, same stadium he played in. I agree with you. I think there's a big part of it in there. So, but again, I look. This team was 2-6. It was 3-7. We all kind of knew the schedule was getting a little weaker. The level of quarterback competition was getting a little softer. And we all felt that this could potentially happen, and it did. And now the question becomes, as we, I guess, worried about when we were back at 2-6, 3-7, what about Matt Canada now? Look, it's been what, 5 days since the season ended. Matt Canada is still the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've seen coordinators at other teams. Bye-bye. They're gone. We've seen guys getting interviews in other places. And Tomlin basically said Monday, we're still kind of reviewing things. So Ian, where are we at? Is he going to be here or what?
I sure as hell hope not. So, but I think we've said all along, and Ryan has said, that Ryan's been saying Canada's going to be back for a while. So Ryan puts his head in his hands.
I hate myself.
But I mean, there's a possibility, I'll say this for the Steelers on the whole. And I think it's philosophically true, whether it's during the regular season, during the off season. Did you guys hear the interview with Miles Jack after the season? And he was saying, I've been in other places where, we were bad and bad things were happening, and, everyone kind of started pointing fingers at each other, and, the locker room just fell apart. He was like, 2-6, that bye week, Coach Tomlin, there was no panic. We had a good heart-to-heart meeting. Coach Tomlin basically told us, hey, you're a bad team and you need to get better. But like, no one's pointing fingers at each other. Everyone, just kind of stayed calm and kept at it, right? I think that whole staying calm and keeping at it thing is something that the Steelers do. They're always very calm and measured in their decisions, and they're not always as fast as we want them to be, but yes, there's guys getting interviews for head coaching jobs. Yes, there's other teams firing coaches left and right. But that being said, I think what they're doing is kind of seeing where some of the chips fall on some of these other guys, right? If Ben Johnson, who's a hot name, offensive coordinator from the Lions, if he gets hired as a head coach somewhere, does he take a bunch of his other assistant coaches from Detroit with him? Or, who does he hire? So I think they're maybe kind of waiting to see what else falls out, and you never know what's going to fall out after the playoffs either. If Dallas goes one and done in and loses in Tampa, like, does Mike McCarthy get canned, and then does that potentially open up some other things? So I think I wouldn't be surprised if they fired Canada after the Super Bowl, or at least after a couple of these other dominoes might fall. I think they're kind of waiting to see where some things fall. I hope they get rid of him, but as we've said on this show, he's under contract for another year. Art doesn't like to spend money for paying guys to not do a job. So I'm resigned to the fact that it may be the case that he's back. But I think Ryan hit the nail on the head earlier too, that you have to score points in this league to win games. That's nothing, honestly, nothing else matters. You have to score points.
And you could argue they should have scored 35.
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No. Eight of the last 10 Super Bowl champions were in the top 8 in the league in scoring offense. And actually everyone who's made it to the Super Bowl since 2016, so that's the last 6 Super Bowl participants, were all top 8 in the league in scoring offense. That's the only statistic where, that you could, like, defense, nope, yards, offense or defense yards, no, scoring defense, no, it's points. It's how much you score. The last team to play in a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl, which is the same, that wasn't in the top 8 in the league was the 2015 Broncos, because they had Peyton Manning and a fucking good defense.
Great defense, good running game.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And Peyton missed like some of the season, but he had a noodle arm at that point. But they were the last team in 2015 that didn't have a top 8 offense to even make the Super Bowl. And they played a Carolina team who was number 1 in scoring offense and probably concussed Cam Newton early in that game and made a bit of a difference. But nevertheless, the last 6 years, every participant in the Super Bowl has been top 8 in scoring offense. So you have to score points. And Canada's offense can't do that.
And so Ryan, you were really the first one to start this, to be honest with you. You were saying all along you think he's going to be back, even if they have some moderate success down the line here into the road. And I tend to believe you're right. Do you still feel the same way?
Yeah. And I, Big Ben's burner asked a little bit earlier, like, when would I have wanted the Steelers to draft or to get a quarterback or whatever? And I mean, that's a fair question. That's a good question. And it made me think back to last year, 2021. And Randy's let go, who was Ben's boy, but Ben came back. And I still, to this day, remember that Deontay Wilder? It's a good meme. But I'm not even drinking. So I really don't think they wanted Ben back in 2021. Okay.
Agreed.
So whatever happened with Canada that year was whatever. Okay. So this was the first true year with Canada, okay? And he had Mitch, and I was fine with that bridge quarterback. And ideally, Big Ben's burner, I wanted them to have a transition plan in place. And I think that, this is just me, but I think that in 2021, they were perfectly okay with letting Mason or Dwayne Haskins battle for that. If Ben didn't come back.
Right.
I think I have that right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think,
apologies. I try to get my years mixed. So
the problem is you're not drinking.
Yeah,
you're drinking,
it's bad. It's
state dependent learning.
I thought I was getting my my things mixed up. Anyway, apologies. So in reality, 2021 probably should have been a bad year. And we're just a year behind now. Anyway, so getting back to Canada.
I know what you mean.
This is Canada's third. This will be and it's going to. He's not going anywhere. I'm sorry, he's not. I don't have any inside information. I'm just going to make a bold proclamation here. Yep. So this is his third year overall, but it's his second year without Ben. Okay, he's under contract through 2023.
Yep.
And I keep hearing former players, former quarterbacks saying that, switching these offenses is not as easy as you think. No. Now, as someone as cerebral as Kenny and someone that is pro ready as Kenny, I don't know if he would have trouble with it, but you got experts that played the game that are saying it would be
with
tough.
Multiple offensive coordinators at Pitt. I think he could handle it.
Yeah, and since Canada's offense is just about as good as a college offense, why
it was a bit Saturday-ish.
I was going to say,
I think was the term.
Calling Canada's offense a college offense is an insult to colleges.
Yeah, it's like the fucking Shaler Titans offense.
Hey, they weren't bad this year.
I know. That's my alma mater. So yeah, I think he's going to be back, and I say this. I don't know how you as a franchise can make that decision to bring this guy back, but the way this franchise has been going the past decade, and you know what? Everybody, and you know what? I'm feeling good right now. Everybody on Twitter this week told me that postseason success isn't that important. Who cares if you haven't won a playoff game in 6 years? Never had a losing season.
This ain't Detroit, baby.
So please tell me if they haven't won a playoff game in 6 years, and that's okay, please tell me how we're gonna bring in some revolutionary mind, some young guy that's gonna turn this offense into a juggernaut. Because that is not what this organization does. Todd Haley was brought in to save Ben's career. And it just so happened that they got good players and put together some heavy points packages. He did. Absolutely.
He got the ball out of his hands a hell of a lot faster.
Absolutely. So Canada's going to be back, and it is going to be the same shit as it was this year. And I'll say this: if you Steelers fans, because we fleeced the Bears into giving us a 2 for Chase Claypool, they think, oh, yeah, just trade Deontay. Who the fuck are you going to throw the ball to?
Yeah.
Pickens can't do it all. You don't know what you're getting with Austin. So I don't know. That's just me.
Well, I want to go to something, and I think Berner said this. Some of the other podcasts were basically saying we're a couple players away from maybe a Super Bowl or something like that. And look, I respect everybody's opinions and all the work that they do on their shows and stuff. But I think this team's more than a few players away from a Super Bowl. And we're going to talk about this throughout the offseason, but you can make arguments they got to upgrade on the offensive line, the defensive line, linebacker, cornerback. I don't think it's just that easy. Freak, I'm sorry it was you, not Berner. Sorry, Berner, I gave him your love, man.
We love all of you.
We love all of you, yeah. I don't see that. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. If that happens, if we add a few guys and we go to Super Bowl next year, I'll be thrilled. They'll be more than happy to say I was wrong, but I just don't. I don't see it. Can't imagine it. Got to have some more guys of that. Let me just real quick get the DK ad read in here real quick. Don't forget, guys, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code TPPN. New customers bet just $5 on college football, of course, pro now, and get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code TPPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Check it out. Man, they always have good deals. Man, I saw another one DK's got going now where I think you can increase your winnings like by I don't even know what it was, but it was a really good deal. That's all I can tell you. I saw it a little while ago while I was prepping for the show, as they say. It should be us getting our asses kicked by Buffalo next week or this weekend. Actually, but what are you going to do?
Why?
To that point, though, to Noah's point, you can put it up on the screen if you want. I was thinking about this, after the game, and you always want to make the playoffs. I'm on the record on the show saying I always want to make the playoffs because you don't get to dance with the girl if you don't go to the prom, right? You always want to make the playoffs, regardless of what happens. But for this team where they are now with kind of how much youth they have, if they went up to Buffalo and just got the floor wiped with them, because Buffalo is playing with a lot of emotion right now, with the DeMar Hamlin thing and everything. If they go up to Buffalo and lose, 45-10 or whatever, like, does that really do this team a whole lot of good for the long term? Like, yes, maybe you find out if you've made progress since the last time you played up in Buffalo earlier this season and got your ass whipped. But really, other than kind of that measuring stick of, are we better than 38-3, which was, I think, one of the biggest regular season losses like in the last 40 years of Steelers history. I don't want to say it's good to miss the playoffs, but like, for this team and their confidence, right now, they were on a little winning streak at the end of the year, right? We won 4 in a row to end the year. We finished with a winning record, built some momentum going into the off season, had a couple, game winning drives at the end where we kind of showed, hey, we can pull this out in tough situations. I kind of feel like, I'm not going to say it's the best case scenario that we missed the playoffs, but I wasn't really expecting us to make the playoffs this year anyway. So I'm kind of like, finishing on the upswing, 4 wins with a winning record, like, build some momentum going into the offseason and into next year, and build some confidence in these guys. Winning in this league is not easy. Like, people have gotten brainwashed because of Ben Roethlisberger and what New England did, basically, to think that winning in the NFL is easy. Winning in the NFL is not easy. The Rams won the Super Bowl last year and went like 5-12 this year. Like, winning in this league is hard. And, yes, in the big picture, it takes some time for young guys to learn how to win. We've talked a lot on the show about how, Cam Hayward's the only guy on the team who knows what it means to be a true Pittsburgh Steeler, right? And I think Najee might get it a little bit, maybe a couple other guys, but nevertheless, they got to learn how to win. And I think they started to learn how to win. It wasn't pretty, but there's no BCS in the NFL, right? It's just wins and losses. And they started to learn how to win towards the end of the year. And I think it was a good confidence booster that you beat the Raiders, you beat the fucking Ravens, and then you beat the dumbass Browns. So you beat arguably your 3 biggest rivals going into the offseason. Built a little momentum, built some confidence, built some good feelings. Look at this asshole that just joined us.
Shit. I shouldn't even. Jesus, look at this guy coming live from his hotel room.
Professional.
I'm not the most upset that, the season ended the way it did. I'm glad we beat those teams. I'm glad we got those wins. And I like the trajectory that we're on.
I understand the point. I thought it was nice to see the locker room was actually quiet Sunday. Nobody was really celebrating the win over Cleveland. There was kind of a feeling of, we didn't get the job done. We didn't get to the postseason, and I'm good with that. Where'd Dr. Evil go? He just left. He was here a minute ago.
Liquid magma.
He stroke his cat.
Very funny. Sean McDermott and Bill Burr in the same room. That's funny. I've thought that myself.
Have we ever seen Big Ben's burner and Ben Roethlisberger in the same room?
Have we ever seen Big Ben's burner and the other Twitter account that's almost exactly the same, that uses the same picture as him in the same room? Because I get them mixed up all the time on actual Twitter.
He did have a question, though. Do we see the team drafting a wide receiver? I think he said maybe 3rd round. I always see this team drafting a wide receiver. Always. But do I think it's going to be 1st, 2nd, 3rd round this year? Probably not.
This is terrible.
But you're coming in a little better.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Ben? Ben? No? Nothing?
It's really choppy.
Huh. Must have. That's what you get for that 99-cent Wi-Fi.
Well, it's actually the free Wi-Fi at the hotel, so there's that.
Yeah. Geez. Oh, man, they are just hammering you. Wow. Funny seeing Ben with no hat. Is he bald?
And no headphones.
No headphones either. Yeah. We're glad to have you. We didn't think we'd have you tonight. Is there any specific point you wanted to make this evening?
Just that you guys are a bunch of jackasses, and everything you've said to this point was wrong.
Well,
It's a very my cousin Vinny moment from Ben. Everything that guy just said is bullshit.
Two quick things saying about like we should be in Buffalo this weekend. No, we shouldn't be because we aren't.
Why would we want to be? Let's get our asses kicked in Buffalo. That's a great idea.
Well, we shouldn't be because we aren't, because we didn't handle our own business. And there were two quotes this week that stood out to me. One was Tomlin in his final presser said, I'm pretty much not I'm a loss for words, but he said, I was expecting to play a game this week. And then Arthur Millette also had said that, the Jets should have taken care of business or something like that.
Yeah.
You cannot be relying on other teams to get you in.
Exactly.
And far too often, as of late, it's always like, oh yeah. If we all joke about it, we got the Dumb and Dumber meme. So you're telling me there's a chance, it's like because you don't fucking beat the Jets. Like if you would have just beaten the Jets, it pissed
the Patriots,
or the Patriots,
yes,
or the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yep.
So no, I mean, no, we shouldn't be in Buffalo this weekend because we didn't do everything. We didn't do our jobs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really am okay not being in Buffalo this weekend. I love making the playoffs. I love the feeling of being in the playoffs.
I'm going to be frank. Playing for the 7 seed is bullshit anyway because you're the sacrificial lamb.
Well, in most cases.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. No, it's bullshit. Who the fuck wants to be that team who goes to the 2 seed and gets their asses kicked like last year?
Yeah, and Mike Florio tweeted the other teams in the AFC basically like other teams in the AFC are lucky the Steelers didn't make the postseason and and I'm just like what the fuck, dude? Like okay.
Say that if we were in the NFC, I'd buy that, but not.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Like we could beat the Tampa Bay Tom Brady's again.
Yes.
Playoff Brady? They've never beaten playoff Brady.
Well, I think they could this year.
Yeah.
It isn't just Brady. It isn't just Brady. It's they're an 8-9 team, man. That defense is not good. It is not good.
They're getting healthier, and I mean, do you not think the Cowboys are going to lose?
I think the Cowboys are going to wallop them.
Wow, you're the only one going that way, man. I see.
I think the Cowboys are going to kick the shit out of them. I think the Cowboys are tired of fucking losing in the first round, and they're going to kick the living shit out of the Tom Brady's.
Don't they know how badly I want them to lose in the first
round?
God,
I fucking hope they lose. I so hope I'm wrong because I hate I don't really hate the Cowboys. I hate Cowboys fans, right? So if they lose, then let's hope they fucking lose. Cowboys fans are sad, which makes me smile.
Makes you happy.
I don't think they're going to lose.
Okay.
I'm not saying the Tampa Bay is going to win by a lot, but I can see Micah Parsons like maybe having 4 sacks. Like he is going to be, but then it's postseason Brady. It's just still Brady. I'm fucking done with that dude, man. I'm tired of his fucking avocado toast bullshit. I'm just tired of that fucking guy.
He's going to play again next year. You know this.
He's going to be back.
He's going to play again next year. He's not married anymore. What the hell?
Yeah,
he's got nothing else to do.
He's going to be in Vegas.
I think probably Vegas.
Vegas or Miami.
Probably Vegas or Miami potentially, but probably Vegas. Yeah, because he's got a coach there. He's got familiarity with.
Yeah.
I agree with what you guys say that we don't deserve to be in the playoffs, and I just said I'm kind of almost glad we're not. Yeah. But that being said, I would much rather watch Kenny Pickett and just see what he can do than watch Skylar Thompson and whatever the fuck the Dolphins are trotting out there. Like it would have just been, if I had to choose, and I'm not an objective football fan, so I won't say as an objective football fan, but if I had to choose between watching, Kenny Pickett, Skylar Thompson, or Mac Jones, like I'll take watching Kenny Pickett any day. Like let's just see what happens. You never know,
You don't. But
yeah. But the Dolphins are ass. The Dolphins are horrible right now.
The thing with Pickett is you're gonna get 3.5 quarters of mediocrity at this point, where he makes a lot of bad decisions and let me see if this works kind of stuff. He's trying to figure it out where he's taking it apart and putting it back together. And then at the end, he just says, fuck it, and starts slinging it, and he actually starts making plays. So, I don't know. I mean, that's not a fun game for about
He did it a little bit
50
earlier
minutes.
against the Browns that, after the Browns scored their second touchdown and cut the lead to 6, they did put together a very nice drive to go down.
Yeah,
and
they did.
Big third downs again.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, and it was a great drive. I agree with you. But up to that point, it was kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I thought honestly that this last game, Pickett regressed a little bit.
Well,
He did. He made some bad decisions. His accuracy was scattershot. He played better the previous 2 games than he played this game. And if he had played as well as he played the previous 2 games, the Steelers would have won this game by a lot.
What you just
Well,
described.
we probably should have had a touchdown on the first drive.
Yes,
They would
and
have
that's
challenged
on
that.
Mike
And-
Tomlin. We have talked about this offline. We agree. Mike shouldn't have rushed them back to the line. He was trying to play basically he's like trying to play momentum. He's like, hey, let's just run back to the line and let's just punch it in.
If only.
Well, that shit didn't work.
If only they had a guy in the booth that whose job was to just
they do have that guy, Ryan.
who is it?
I don't know now.
I actually-
Austin. Whose job is it now?
I thought it was Flores, wasn't it?
I don't know, man.
Well, that's
This year?
that's another Flores.
We're going to get to that in just a second.
Yeah, but
What was well, Ben, what you just described about 3.5 quarters, and then to me that's almost kind of representative of of the way they kind of dealt with him this year. Take care of the ball, don't do anything stupid, and if we need you to make some throws, maybe we'll let you. I mean, that just kind of felt kind of very much the way that they wanted him to be this year.
They're letting him audible more. They're giving him more freedom. I appreciate that, and I'm glad it's happening. But I have no respect for our offensive coordinator. I still don't think his team really has an identity.
I agree.
After 17 games, they really struggled to move the ball consistently. They always struggled to get into a rhythm, and they struggled consistently scoring in the red zone.
Right.
It was not a fun offense to watch, and I'm not making any excuses for Kenny Pickett. His decisions were his, and he made a lot of bad ones. But having that guy as your OC does make it harder. I will say that.
I do want to switch gears because the guy that a lot of us would like to see as the DC interviewed for that same position in Cleveland today, Brian Flores, of course. And, guys, I don't know what you do if you're Mike Tomlin. You brought Flores there at a time when he was obviously going through a lot of stuff with the Dolphins and the Giants, filing lawsuits and
The
Texans, gave Flores a line and brought him in. And I don't know what Mike Tomlin's plan long term was with him. Maybe it was just, hey, Brian, come here for a year and then go elsewhere. I don't know. I personally, I'd hate to see him go.
I agree.
I don't want to see him go. But
you also know Mike Tomlin will not deny an assistant an opportunity to move up. He's not going to say to that guy, I'm going to deny you the possibility of moving toward a promotion. That's just Tomlin. And he's also not going to fire Terrell Austin to keep Brian Flores after Terrell Austin's had the job for a year.
Yeah.
So everybody's hoping for that, including me. That isn't going to happen.
No, I would agree. And much as I don't like it, that's where we're at.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I hope we don't lose the guy. I hope that they, you brought it up this week. Maybe Ian, one of you did. They should give him the title of assistant head coach. And then, they can pay him more and they can retain him. But they already have an assistant head coach who does nothing, John Mitchell. And So they can't give the title away twice.
Unless they
retire John Mitchell, they can't do it.
Could they make him co-defensive coordinator?
Yeah, you could make him a passing game coordinator on defense. Which a lot of teams do.
We're thinking of things that the Steelers are never going to do. So,
right.
Well, damn it, that's what we need to be doing, Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan.
What's wrong with you?
Well, no,
let us fantasize here.
Art 2 is just waiting to tune in an hour.
Yeah,
Art 2 is actually Big Ben's burner.
Yeah,
Art 2. Actually, I don't know if you guys realize this, but Art 2 scours the internet for good ideas from knowledgeable fans. I heard that on Twitter.
I saw.
I
saw on Twitter the other day. It was Art Nutting the second, and I laughed a little bit.
That's brutal. That's fucking brutal.
So Jennifer, they don't pay anybody. So there's a couple random thoughts here.
Why do you think Ryan left, Jennifer?
Well, there's a variety.
Ryan was making 27.5 plus all of the.
I mean, if I was,
he could throw down.
I was just gonna say, man, if I was making $500,000, I wouldn't have said anything. But no, so get back to Flores. So I think that move last year was beneficial for both parties. There was a lot of attention on Flores, and not his doing or his own fault. I think that the Steelers saw that as an opportunity to extend a hand and say, hey, you're a really good coach. You're smart as hell. We'd love to have you on board. And Tomlin's a very good relationship person, and I think he saw that as a benefit to both sides. But if I'm Brian Flores and I am the senior defensive assistant, which is to me is like a little slap in the face, like assistant linebackers coach. I know it's the Browns, and I know we hate the Browns, but the Browns have a decent defense.
They got some talent over there.
Young guy.
Isn't just that the Browns aren't afraid to spend money.
And yes, and hey, because Matt Canada isn't going anywhere. You think Brian Flores was like, 2 AFC North matchups next year against the guy.
Now here's a guy.
Here's a guy. He's got one of those kid hats with the.
I'm going to play the other side of this, and I'm going to point out that for years teams came at Keith Butler and wanted to promote him to DC, and the Steelers just kept giving him raises and basically promised him that he was a defensive coordinator in waiting, and they were able to retain him consequently. So I'm going to say it's a long shot, but maybe if Brian Flores really likes working in Pittsburgh and they give him a bump in salary, they can retain him. Maybe. But he's got to look at it from the standpoint that he's at least 2 years away from the possibility of being the DC. So maybe he's like, I want to be a head coach again. And sitting here waiting for that guy, Austin, to falter and then get the job, I don't know if that's what I want. And maybe he likes Terrell Austin and doesn't want to replace him.
But
I don't know.
True.
There are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that can figure into this. We definitely don't know. All the specifics, all the dynamics there. We just don't.
And speaking of things that factor in, I know Ryan has said that the Steelers don't like to spend money, but
they don't.
The new, for lack of a better term, minority hiring rule that the NFL put in place last year says that if you lose a coach that is a coach or front office person to a head coach or GM position that is a minority candidate, I guess. If you develop them, then you get multiple third-round compensatory picks. But they have to have been with your team for 2 years for it to count. So is it worth potentially thinking through this, right? Is it worth the Steelers trying to keep Flores around for another year to say, hey, if someone hires him as a head coach from our staff, if he stays for one more year, we'll get 2 third-round comp picks? And that is a reason to potentially spend some money on keeping him around for one more year.
And to that point, I haven't heard his name mentioned with any of the current job openings. And if I'm him, I don't really like any of the current job openings.
I don't. What? Los Angeles Chargers is going to open. You don't want that, really?
Well, if that
Dallas
did, then but I'm not
Dallas?
saying it's. Hey, if they win a game or two, he's not getting fired. I don't think so.
I don't know.
But the current job openings, no, I wouldn't. If I'm him, I wouldn't want any of those.
Yeah, but
I don't think that Brian Flores will ever be a head coach again. I don't.
A whole other discussion, I think.
I don't think it's going to happen for him.
Right.
I would also, the one thing, in my opinion, for the Steelers, you got 3 chefs in the kitchen, right? You got Tomlin, Austin, and Flores. That's way too many chefs on the defense. If he goes to Cleveland, Stefanski handling his own business on the offensive side, he's going to let Flores run the show.
Make a good point.
So
that's a good point.
Very good. Yeah.
And for a guy, here's a guy that claims to be a defensive minded coach, and their defense sucks sometimes. Yeah. I forgot my water. Damn it! I'll be back.
Right.
Yeah, go get
Actually,
your water.
branching off that point though, that Ryan just made. So, the saying the defense sucks sometimes, right? Since the Cincinnati game, right?
The Bengals game in November.
Since the Bengals game, they held every team they played under 20 points.
Yep.
And in the NFL, that's pretty damn impressive to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is they gave up a lot of opening drive touchdowns. And I think, or opening drive scores.
Points.
Yes. And I think as a broader point, I was thinking about this. I was going to make this point on the show last week, but I wasn't here. So I'm making it this week. When we think about the NFL, we get a lot of narratives in our head about teams like in that first 4 weeks, first 6 weeks, first 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And kind of everything that happens after that is more or less confirmation of that narrative. It's like, oh, this team sucks. They won a game. Who cares? They still suck. This team is awesome, but they lost a game. They just lost a game. But then you start to see like, oh, the Steelers, the Lions, the Jaguars all started 2-6. We were like, oh, those teams all suck. And then all of a sudden they all finished 9-8. And it's like, where did they all come from? At least we have these narratives in our head, right? It happens to everybody. It's just, it's fact. It happens, right? That you form narratives early in the year and things kind of confirm those, right?
Right.
You don't necessarily, until the very end of the year, you're not always looking at the body of work.
We talk a lot about those 4-week segments.
Right.
I mean, like the narratives you form early in the season, honestly, rarely turn out to be true about the teams.
Right. Except
like
for the Bills
the
being
September
good.
narratives are never true in November.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Or like last year when the Cardinals started 7-0 and then tanked down the stretch. Right now, Cliff Kingsbury got fired.
He done a good job.
But I think similarly,
it's kind of been his hallmark, though, hasn't it? His entire career.
Yes,
that's why when people talk about the fact that they want Kingsbury
Yeah,
to be the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, I'm like, do you realize how many times in a row this guy has been figured out over the second half of his season?
Yeah.
Consistently his entire career.
Yeah.
I don't want him anywhere near the Steelers.
Hell no.
No.
Well, a lot of the ladies love him because he looks like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, which is fine. Great.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking guy. I get it. He's not a good offensive-minded coach.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He ain't that guy.
I'd rather have a guy that looks like Judd Hirsch and be good at calling plays.
Yeah, make him a wide receivers coach or a quarterbacks coach. Sure, fine. Good.
Yeah.
So to finish my point, though, I feel like a lot of times within individual games, we start to form narratives after the first drive. Like that Miami game, we got torn apart the first drive. The Raiders game, we got torn apart the first drive. But after those drives in both of those games, the defense played pretty well. But if you think about it, it was like, oh, our defense sucked. And that narrative comes from that first drive where they just came in and tore us apart. So, yes, the defense was bad often at the beginning of games. But I felt like this year they did do other than the Jets game where they just choked it away in the fourth quarter, down the stretch after that Bengals game when they gave up 37, they did a pretty good job. I felt like, of making in-game adjustments to what the other team was doing and played pretty well on the whole down the stretch.
Yeah.
But they also faced shitty quarterbacks.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
and I agree.
Nope.
But when you face those types of QBs, I expect you to hold that team to under 20.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, it was an unimpressive list of QBs. Tyler Huntley and I mean, who was the best in that stretch that they played?
Probably
Tua,
Carr.
I guess. Carr, yeah. I mean, so I don't know.
Well, and let's not forget though. I mean, the first game against the Browns ran for a crap load of yards against us. The Ravens ran for 215 yards against us, and no, we didn't hold the Browns to under 20 in that first game. We did. We should have beaten the Ravens the first time we played them, even though they ran for 200 some yards. So
should have beaten them.
Yeah.
Yep. Just a couple things to wrap up the whole season. I wanted you guys to give me like your MVP, maybe a guy on the rise that you really liked, and then also a guy that really could probably just jump in the Ohio and float away, and you'd be fine with that. Not personally, of course, just talent-wise. Scarps, who's your MVP this year?
My MVP this year is Najee Harris.
Wow.
He was hurt at the beginning of the year. I absolutely said he stunk, and he did. And yes, he was hurt, but he also stunk. And literally, as much as Kenny improved, I absolutely believe that the reemergence of Naj down the stretch took pressure off of Kenny. And when we needed Naj most,
No argument. Yep.
He rose to the occasion, and
he got healthier.
He got he got healthier, and I'm going to say this because I looked it up. Out of any active running back that has like 500 carries, he has the second lowest yards per carry, and that's not good. So I'd love to see his yards per carry go up.
His yards per carry early in the season were very poor, and then they went up as the season went on.
But he still had 3.9 at the end of the year.
I get it.
I get
it. But over the last half of the season, it was much better. That's all I'm saying.
So
and it wasn't just that he played better; the line played better.
Yes, and so
I mean, like when they played the Rats the second time, 2.4 yards before contact. That's fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I believe Naj is the MVP, and in his running is what absolutely got them to 9-8, especially after that bye week. The totally different player.
Okay.
So it's not Matt Canada who's the MVP for you.
Well, Ben, who's your MVP?
Yeah, I need a minute to think about who needs to go down the Ohio.
Well, no, we're doing all MVPs here first.
You guys are going to say this is ridiculous because he didn't perform that well, but TJ Watt. When he came back, the defense was different. And it's just, everybody else was more productive as a result of the fact that offenses had to account for TJ. And TJ was not TJ when he came back. He was not 100%. But he was enough that he was a threat from that side, and they had to account for him. So that being the case, I mean, Malik Reed and DeMarvin Leal and Loudermilk and all the other guys they try to put there and make it work. God bless them for trying, but they're not Watt.
Yeah.
They're just not. So Watt comes back, and the defense is much more productive.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't collect enough fumbles this year. They led the league in interceptions, but they were 32nd in fumble recoveries, thus only +3 in the turnover margin, which ain't great, but, it was enough. At least it was positive.
Right.
But yeah, as a result, over the second half of the year, they were a much better team, a much better defense. So, yeah. Watt.
Okay. Ian, your MVP.
Yeah, the players got it right. It was Minkah Fitzpatrick. He tied for the league lead in interceptions with 6.
Yep.
All the other guys who had 6 interceptions had fewer than 70 tackles. Minkah had 96. So not only was he picking the ball off, but he was also, and it's never a good thing when your free
safety has 96 tackles, almost 100 tackles. That's not good.
No, it's not. But also, he was getting guys on the ground.
He was.
You know, Miles Jack was our leading tackler with 104, and Minka was second at 96. So,
that kind of surprises me that Miles Jack was that high because he missed so much time.
Yeah. But yeah, Minka is my MVP.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I considered all those guys, and I kind of took the easy way out, and I went offensive line.
Oh.
And the reason, and I still think they're going to need to upgrade there. I still think there's a couple guys that can be moved out, new guys.
Whole left side.
Absolutely left side. But as you guys have alluded to, in combination a little bit with Najee Harris, if you look at what they did after the bye, they stayed together. They got better. I think Pat Meyer did a really nice job. I don't know how great of a job, but I think he did a good job. And I think that unit not only protected long enough, but they got off the ball better. Not just for Najee, but for Warren too. And that's the group anyway that I would give that to. Now, as far as a guy on the rise, what do you got, Scarps?
Calvin Austin.
We're not doing that. I believe you mean
go
Tyreek
down.
Hill.
Who?
So a guy on the rise.
And we all
I'm
have
gonna
our
say it.
different definitions
No.
of that.
Guy on the rise. I'm gonna say it. And I joked about this many times on the show because his brother plays defensive end. But I think Connor Hayward did really well this year as a rookie. I mean, obviously he has a lot to learn, but
sure.
you know, I think that he will probably be our tight end 2 sooner rather than later. And I'm not going to say that. Not going to say he's gonna blow you away and be the next amazing tight end. But I laughed because I thought that he wasn't that good, and they were only going to draft him because of Cam was his brother. But I was wrong, and I think he's played pretty well. And I
Made some
think
big catches.
as a
nice
bright
He
runs.
can't block.
huh?
He can't block.
Blocking's got to get better.
He doesn't run good routes, but he has great hands.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with
The
that.
kid has great hands. If you throw him the ball, he catches everything you throw at him. So he's going to have some value because he's got great hands. I tend to wonder if they line him up as a wide tight end, always in the slot. It was a mismatch with a slot corner. If he wouldn't be more effective, and I've thought that for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Who's the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I know. I heard that the guy doesn't like to use the wide tight end, but
Ben, who is your guy on the rise?
guy on the rise, DeMarvin Leal. DeMarcus Leal?
Great pick. Yeah.
DeMarvin.
DeMarvin Leal.
Yeah.
Here's a guy on the rise.
Man, here's a guy. He is okay. He's still technically unsound.
Mm-hmm.
But when he gets and TJ Watt, his rookie season was technically unsound.
A lot of ways, yeah.
But he got better and became a good player. And Leal, as an athlete, especially at defensive line, he's a freak. That is ridiculous. There's shit I see that guy do, and I'm like, you are a DE. You should not be able to do that as an defensive end. He plays like a linebacker or a corner running around back there. And the guy's, close to 300 pounds. That should not be something you see happening. So when he figures out the technical side of what he's doing, holy shit, is he going to be good. That was a good pick, in my opinion. Not because he had a great contribution this year, although he had a decent contribution, but because he fit a prototype, which was a great athlete, unpolished, somebody we need to work with and develop, who's going to be a good player for us.
I mean, they kind of went to him right away after TJ went down, kind of some of those specialty packages.
Yeah.
I mean, he did well.
He also was hurt and he missed time and he came back.
Yeah.
Like usually if you're a rookie and you get hurt, you probably don't see the field much after.
Yeah.
So that shows to me that they
wanted to keep him.
Yeah, they
playing. They wanted to develop him. They want him to be the guy.
Ian, who's your guy on the rise?
All right. So I had a lot of guys that were bouncing around my head. And like obviously Kenny Pickett got better as the year went on. But he was a first-round pick, so there was pretty high expectations for him.
Absolutely.
After the training camp he had, second-round pick, George Pickens, there's a lot of pretty high expectations for him.
Right.
I would say Pickens kind of met my expectations of where he would be. He didn't necessarily exceed them. A couple veteran guys, Terrell Edmonds, Mason Cole, exceeded the expectations that I had for them. They were better than I thought they were.
Yep.
But I think that if you want me to pick the absolute guy on the rise of guy who kind of came out of nowhere.
Now here's a guy
who came out of nowhere and was a significant contributor. Is Jaylen Warren. I mean, he was an undrafted free agent.
Yes, great pick.
And came in and was a significant contributor to this offense and really not only took some pressure off Najee, but I kind of felt like in games where Warren started running well, Najee ran better because he was like, oh shit, this guy's running good. I got to run good too, or else they're going to take me off the field. Warren is a better blocker than Najee and made some really big plays in the passing game with the ball in his hands. And so, yeah, Jaylen Warren is my guy on the rise.
I'm going to stick with my offensive line theme, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do in free agency and the draft. And I don't know how long they plan to keep him around, but I think Mason Cole did a hell of a lot better than I thought he would. I really didn't know what kind of upgrade he was going to be. And I'm not suggesting that he's destined to be in the Pro Bowl or anything like that. But he was more than I expected. He was capable. There were times I got a little frustrated.
That Kendrick Green set pretty fucking low.
That might be part of why I felt that way. Because things were rock bottom.
Mason Cole is definitely not Sean Mahan, who was fucking awful.
Disaster.
Right.
But he's also not prime Marquise Pouncey.
No.
But if he can be just like Justin Hartwig,
if he can be that good, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
Ultimately,
it's
what
a
I'm
cheap
getting
contract for a competent center. Competent.
If they find that he is competent enough and it allows them to do other things in both free agency and the draft, then I'm good with that. And I feel like that's where he's headed. He seems to be happy here. I love some of his comments this week when he was talking about just the culture and his teammates and Tomlin and everything else. So he's a guy I really think could be improving himself quite a bit. Scarps, now we get to the real tough one here.
Actually, can I give one more shout out too? It was a late riser in the season, but I thought Mark Robinson did some really nice things at linebacker the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I had he a little more body of work, I would have gone with him. But
yeah,
he's young and raw. But yeah,
he's young and raw.
Yeah.
But man, he flies to the ball.
He flies. And he's a freaking missile when he gets there too.
He is fun to watch. Okay, All right, good, Ryan. Send some with Donnie Ahaya.
Oh shit, this is really hard because I have about 8 people in my head right now. You know what? I'm gonna go with one. I'm gonna go with one that maybe isn't the popular choice, but I'm just done with this dude, and I'm just done with him, and that's Benny Snell. I am
Benny.
Done with Benny Snell football. You got Jaylen Warren, you got Najee, you got your 1-2 punch. I look back at that 2019 draft and see Tony Pollard was taking about 5 or 6 picks after Benny Snell, and that just eats me alive. Benny Snell football, I'm done with it. I'm done. And I know special teams are a thing, and
he is good.
Ordinary teams. I know ordinary teams is a thing, but I think he's a UFA. So I hope they don't re-sign him, and hope good. Best of luck. Maybe he lands somewhere else, but
Okay.
Benny Snell football was really never a thing, and I do believe he had his fair share of opportunities. But what really turned me off right away was that mouthpiece that had like the spinner on it. Like, remember that shit?
Yeah.
He'd get like 2.5 yards a carry, and I'd be like, what? Anyway, so there's my guy. Send him down to Mullen.
All right. Ben, who's the guy you want to see jump in the river and drift away?
Jesus Christ, there are so many.
Yeah.
This is a really hard call. You have
I have two,
Marcus
so you
Allen,
pick one, I'll
Devin
pick the other.
Bush.
Oh, I know. Can I do another one? Can we each do
for
two?
God's sakes.
Fuck, man. Devin Bush is gone anyway, so who gives a shit? Marcus Allen seems to have 9 fucking lives. Kevin Dotson is super disappointing. I'm gonna go with Marcus Allen because he's one of those guys that Tomlin keeps around forever.
Yes,
because he likes him.
I think it's Danny Smith.
He plays a specific kind of role in the team.
Right.
He's kind of a role player who plays,
Team DJ.
He's multifaceted, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, dude. The guy sucks. Okay? Fucking go. I really, that's the one I want to leave and not come. Yeah, him. He needs to go. Go play for fucking Philly. I don't give a shit. Just go someplace else.
Okay. All right.
Don't go away mad. Just go away.
Oh, Ian, who's your guy?
All right, so I was going to say Devin Bush, but Ben had brought up a good point that Devin Bush is gone anyways.
Right.
So I'm going to pick someone that is still under contract for next year, which is Akella Weatherspoon, who is due a $4 million.
I forgot he was still on a team.
Yeah, most people did.
He's due a $4 million base salary next year with a $5.5 million cap hit, which means they can cut him with only about 1.5 dead against the cap and save $4 million, which is almost a guarantee to happen after he got torched this year and battled injury all year. And just like, yeah.
I respect.
In Weatherspoon's defense, because this is one of my pet peeves about our defense. All the corners, not just Witherspoon, they don't ask them to play to their strengths.
No,
they ask them to play a specific scheme, which is basically off man. Mm-hmm. And the corners we have, Cameron Sutton aside, are not good at that. They're just not fucking good at it. So it's like, why can't we play those corners to their strengths, to what they do well?
And the funny thing is,
frustrating to watch.
It's always been an issue.
And the funny thing is, when Austin was in Cincinnati, they played press man all the time.
Yes,
it was 2-man press across the board, and yeah. So I don't know why they're playing off man now, which it blows my mind. Or these soft zones behind a 4-man rush every time. Yeah,
it's just really, very, very frustrating to watch it over and over and over and over again. And these guys are not good at what they're being asked to do. But Witherspoon can't stay healthy either, so it's like, fuck, whatever.
Yeah. Send him down to Ohio. Someone down there can pick him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I almost said Robert Spillane, who's an unrestricted free agent, but they're probably going to bring him back because they're idiots.
He played his way into another contract.
Oh, he'll be back.
Whether here or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Whether we like Robert Spillane or not, and we don't, he sucks. He's overachieved. The guy's a fucking overachiever. Yeah. All right? So you got to respect his play.
I do.
But you don't have to appreciate it.
Right.
Which is a weird thing to say, but it's the truth. He's not good. He ain't. He's better than he should be.
Right. And I appreciate the grind, as they say.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say Marcus Allen. He's driven me nuts since day one. But the other guy, and you're not really supposed to speak ill of the dead, and it's not that he's dead, but he did leave for the season injured, was Chris Wormley. I've never been a big Wormley guy. He had like the one big game against the Ravens a year or two ago where he had all the sacks, and he just doesn't do much for me. And I don't know that he'll be back, but
it feels like they have they got a pretty good situation at the depth at defensive line right now, at least the defensive end.
Yeah.
And maybe
assume-
they could let him leave.
Well, Alu's going to retire, I would think.
Alu's
say,
gone, but he really
yeah.
is a nose tackle only at this
Yeah.
point anyway.
Yeah.
They really they kind of need an upgrade there at nose tackle, in my opinion.
I agree.
If we had a true two-gapping nose tackle on rundowns, that would really help them a lot. But I don't know if we're going to see that happen because that guy isn't very versatile,
Yeah.
He's not a guy you can play on passing down, so it's not
Casey Hamptons
really
don't
what they
grow on
want.
trees.
Yeah, Casey Hamptons do not grow on trees. No doubt about that.
That tree would fall over if a
yeah.
Casey Hampton
Thick.
grew on it. But
Is Casey Kasem in the bullpen, by the way?
He is for the final one of the 2022 season.
All right.
Wait, we're not going to do it next week too?
On special occasion, or I don't know. It depends. All right, let's throw up a poll on YouTube.
Just let me preface real quick.
Out there.
Next week we'll start getting into free agency. Talk about the guys we'd like to see come back, the guys maybe not, guys maybe we'd like to bring in, and go over that. And of course, any breaking news that happens over the course of the week as well. And at this time, I would like to bring back the late great Mr. Casey Kasem.
American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was January 12th, 1987. Ryan from Pittsburgh writes for the final time in 2022. Dear Casey, 9-8, baby. 8-9. Never having a losing season feels mighty fine. That's, of course, a parody of 5-1 by the Doors, but I changed the lyrics to 9-8, which was the Steelers' record in 2022. That's right, Casey, 9-8, a non-losing season. Casey, I'm not sure if you know this, but Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. Never mind that they haven't won a playoff game in 6 years or that they've missed the postseason in 3 of the last 6 years. Who cares about championships when you can boast that you've never had a losing season? By the way, Super Bowl 43 was almost 15 years ago, but who's counting? Casey, Mike Tomlin is a great coach. He will be in Canton someday. His non-losing season streak is admirable, but it's also something that many seek comfort in. And I truly don't understand how so many Steelers fans can be content with being average. And that's what they've been probably for the past decade. Fans go out of their way to make excuses. Sound familiar? It's just like Steelers' first-round pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, Kenny Pickett. Casey, not sure if you know this, but Pickett went to the University of Pittsburgh. He also threw the fewest touchdown passes out of any rookie in NFL history that attempted at least 380 passes in his debut season. Once again, everybody in the AFC is shaking in their jockstraps. Back to task here. The Steelers used to count success by Lombardi trophies. Now they've become the participation trophy team. Hey, Casey, you know how August 8th is known as Jeff Fisher Day? Because he always went 8-8. Well, September 8th will now officially be Mike Tomlin Day.
Oh! Wow!
Like Al Davis said, just go 9-8, baby. I remember the days when Steelers fans actually held this team accountable and wanted more.
Holy shit.
It's all just confusion. Well, Ryan, once again, I strongly suggest you seek professional help. In the meantime, moving up 3 spots this week to number 11, here's Genesis with Land of Confusion.
Oh, nice choice.
George fucking Earth tonight,
And also
Ryan.
one of the weirdest
Wow.
videos I've ever seen in my life. That was a weird ass video.
They had like puppets and stuff.
Shit. Yeah.
It was actually I wanted to say this earlier. And I didn't want to interrupt, but Matt Canada, I've never but I've never met the guy, but he like strikes me as a guy that you'd like see at the all you can eat buffet, and like he taps you on the arm and he's like, "Hey, go get a second plate. It's on me." You know what I mean? Like just some corny ass joke.
Have you done your Todd Haley impression on the show?
I don't know. That was always my Todd Haley impression. He was just like, Ben's our quarterback. It's kind of like Bill Clinton-esque, you know?
It is a little Clinton-esque.
Todd Haley is the Tequila Cowboy. Here we go.
Oh, God. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Appreciate all the interaction and everything. We had a great audience as usual. Thank you so much. Like I said, next week we'll start looking towards the 23 season, free agency, who's staying, who's going. Any breaking news that comes across, we'll be sure to discuss that as well. And of course, make
Deontay
sure you check
Johnson
out,
or something, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Anything like that. Make sure you check out the site, steelcityblitz.com. And as always, thank you to DEK Roofing Incorporated for being our wonderful sponsor. And as always, go Steelers.
Ravens fucking suck.